Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm your host, Sandy Rosenthal. And this week, my guest is from the great state of North Carolina, and she is from Charlotte. And her name is Sherry Loeffler. Hey, Sherry.
Hi, Sandy. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I mean, for those of you who are listening to the podcast and can't see my guest, she's wearing a fabulous piece of necklace around her neck. I wish, and for those of you who'd like to see it, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, which for those of you who prefer to watch instead of just listen. But anyway, I'm really happy to have my guest because on my show this week, because she is an example of something that the X-Files once made a television show out of, and that is dealing with your homeowners association. And if anybody remembers this episode of the X-Files, it turned out that all the members of the homeowners association in that episode were all from outer space. Has to be one of the X-Files has a lot of humor, and that's definitely one of their funny ones. But here we have a real life on this planet case of someone who had to stand up to the wishes of her homeowners association, and we're going to be hearing all about that. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my guest right now. Sherry Loeffler is originally from Canada and has lived in Charlotte, North Carolina since 2007. She is a single mom of a 21-year-old and works in the banking industry. Sherry is here today to tell us about the battle she has been fighting with her HOA at the Yachtsman on Lake Wylie since August of 2019. Well, I cannot wait to hear all about it. So without any further ado, Sherry, the mic is now yours. Tell us your story.
Thank you, Sandy. So, yeah, this has been going on for 4 years, and I think my HOA is from outer space. So long story short, about 4 years ago, I needed new windows. There was a lot of rot around my windows, and so you have to put in an architectural request for any changes. And I put in our architectural request and I asked for 3 windows. So I had 8 windows, four big ones on the top and 4 little ones on the bottom. So the reason I asked for different windows was I looked across the way at my neighbors who had different windows. So I thought, okay, I guess we can put in different windows. And I have a lake view, and I thought, okay, well, 3 windows versus 8 would be nicer to get a better view. So my first request asked for 3 windows, one big picture window and then 2 on the side. I got a denial letter sent to me. They said to me, you cannot put in 3 windows, but you can put in 4 windows of equal width, either casement or still. So that is exactly what I did. I worked with my vendor, who's a very reputable vendor. I don't know if I can say their name. It was Home Depot. So, not just some mom and pop place. Like, they've been around a long time. They know their stuff. So I put in my second request and I said, okay, per your recommendation, I'm going to put in 4 windows. They're going to be casement windows. Gave the exact dimensions. I forget what they were, like 28 by 64. I'm going to do them in white, even though our buildings are beige, and they can paint their color beige so it conforms with everything. They agreed. I even wrote this in an email. So I had my architectural application and my email. I compared my windows to a neighbor's window saying, hey, she's got 4 windows instead of 8. Hers are double hung. I'm not doing the double hung. I'm doing what you recommended, casement or still, and I'm doing casement. So the vendor came out, they put in the windows looked great. It was time for the HOA to come and paint the windows from white to beige as they agreed to conform with the colors in the building. And then a few days later, they sent me an email saying, well, your windows don't match the rest of the windows in your building. You need to change them. So I was asking, why do I need to change them? Because I put in exactly what you told me. And these windows were not inexpensive windows. These windows were over $5,000. So it wasn't a cheap purchase. So we went back and forth, and again, they said, we're not going to paint them. You need to change them. And that was that. So I hired an attorney. The attorney reached out to the HOA and said, you know, my client did everything she's supposed to. What do we need to do here? She's willing to work with you guys. At that time, the vendor offered, we'll change the windows out. They felt bad for what I was going through. They said, we'll change the windows out at our restocking fee and an installation fee, which was just slightly over $2,000, but only if the HOA was going to pay for it, because why should I pay for it? It was not my mistake. So we didn't hear anything. So this was in August of 2019. Then several months passed. My lawyer considered the matter closed. Then COVID hit. I don't know if the attorney got bored all of a sudden and needed to make some extra money. And all of a sudden I get a letter from him saying, hey, I've been retained by the board to address your windows situation. I think an attorney contacted me, not sure if it was yours, but you know, we need to address this matter. He admitted in his letter that we inadvertently approved your windows, but we want you to change them. So to me, that was admission, inadvertently. If you made a mistake, that's on you. And the application was straightforward. It literally said 4 windows, gave the dimensions, said they were going to be white, you paint them beige. We even included a diagram. And I would love to share that documentation with anyone that would like to look at it. It was cut and dry, in my opinion. So basically, a fight went on, and finally the HOA decided to start fining me. They started fining me $100 a day. The fines ended up to over $12,000. And then they said they were going to put a lien on my house, which they did. So I had to retain a lawyer. The first lawyer I used, she had went off and done something else, so I couldn't use her. I found another attorney. And we went back and forth. And right from the beginning to this day, I have tried to negotiate with them. Hey, I'll change them, but you got to pay for them. It's your mistake. And you need to pay my legal fees, because why should I incur all these legal fees? So at one point, they didn't want to settle. So we had to go to arbitration through the courts. We went to arbitration. The arbitrator decided they need to paint the windows, they need to remove the fines, and they need to remove the lien, and both parties are responsible for their own legal fees. So at that point, I was out about close to $5,000, and I wasn't happy about that. But my lawyer talked me down and talked some common sense into me, because there's a lot of emotion for me. This is my home you're talking about. So my lawyer said, Sherry, we got what we wanted. It's silly to appeal. Let's just be done with it. And he's like, there's no way they're going to appeal. They don't have a case. Well, sure enough, on the very last day, they had 30 days to appeal. They appealed. So they appealed, and then they requested discovery. So in discovery, you answer interrogatories and you provide documents on both sides. So they failed to provide documentation and answer interrogatories. So we were able to file with the court and say, hey, they haven't done what they're supposed to do. We can now request summary judgment. And then at one point, in the interrogatories, they admitted guilt. And so we won summary judgment. So in summary judgment, the judge decided, remove the lien, remove the fines, paint the window beige, and we're awarding Miss Loeffler $12,675 in legal fees. To date, they have refused to pay that amount. Now, it's only a summary judgment because while this was all happening, we had a big rainstorm at one point in time, and 25 units in my community were affected with water damage. And the water damage was because of poor exterior maintenance. So when that water damage happened, the management company came in, tore up floors, tore up walls, brought in fans, and they said they're going to fix everything. The management company is going to fix it. We've talked to the HOA. Everybody's good. Well, I guess they realized, oh my gosh, 25 units. And we came to find out that the HOA didn't have insurance. So I think they realized we're in a pickle now that we have to take care of 25 units. So they left everybody high and dry to have to repair on their own. Now, I had just put in new floors 2 years prior, and they were those waterproof floors. They didn't need to come up. All they needed were the fans to dry, and we were good to go. So they tore up my floors. Now, this is when COVID hit. So floors that would have cost maybe $2,000 to replace, all of a sudden were $5,000 to replace. And so since I already had a lawsuit, I added that to my claim. So that's why right now I only have a summary judgment, because that part is still standing. So technically, they have 30 days to appeal my summary judgment. So either I have to dismiss those claims, or I have to wait until we go to court for them to have those 30 days to still appeal. And they are saying that they're going to appeal. Now, appellate court, from what I understand from my research, is they don't hear your case. They don't want the facts. They don't want witnesses. The case has already been heard. They just want to know that a law or a procedure was not followed properly. And then they will hear the briefs that the attorneys submit and then decide on the appeal. So that's where I'm at right now. The HOA, they're refusing to pay. I said, I'll drop the water damage claim. Just pay me the $12,675 that I was awarded, paint my windows, and let's be done with this. And they're like, nope, we're going to keep this going. And they're using homeowners' money to do this, and they're not showing it in their financials. In their financials, they're just showing nominal attorney fees like they've been doing over the years. And if I've spent $15,000, they had to have at least spent that much.
So Sherry, if what at this point, and this is obviously a complex thing, especially because of that storm, made it more complex.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it at this point that you would be satisfied with? What needs to happen?
At this point, and this is what I've told my attorney to offer the other side, is pay the $12,675 towards my legal fees. It doesn't cover all of them because I'm over 15,000 now, but it covers most of them. Paint my windows beige. I'll release the water damage claim that I have, which is just a few $1,000s, and let's be done with this and move on.
Okay.
They don't want to move on. The word on the street, the word in the community is that they are going to bleed me dry financially and keep this going as long as they can.
Okay. And I want to point out, for any of you out there listening would wonder, well, why does the HOA want to do that? It doesn't matter. Okay. It's not my guest's job to understand why they're doing this. There may be some strange oddball reason. It doesn't matter. Okay. This is the big guys are behaving this way, and my guest is standing up to them. So great. I think this is fabulous. So there's several things I'd love to go back and chat about for a moment. But first of all, my heart goes out to you. This is for what you're having to go through. I mean, as you pointed out, it's your home.
Mm-hmm.
It's your home. Okay. But we're here to talk about this, and hopefully everyone will be enlightened by the close of this episode. So Sherry, it's okay if I call you Sherry.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's really important that and you did something very, very right, is you follow the rules, and you documented that you followed the rules, because if it ever reaches a point where a lawsuit needs to be filed, and attorneys really don't like to file a lawsuit, they really will do anything to get out of filing a lawsuit. And even the attorney that you have now, I feel a resistance from him or her to file a lawsuit. But it's okay as long as you can show that you tried to discuss it, that you tried to sit down and talk about it, that you follow the rules. And it certainly sounds to me like you did in spades, and can show it. And the fact that they've even admitted that they knowed. Okay. So, but that is really important. And what my guest did is critically important. And it's something for all of you to remember when you're dealing with the big guys. Can you show that you were reasonable, and that you just tried to just have a sit down and powwow over it? Okay. So it's interesting, I find, that they had their attorney reach out to you. How did you feel when you received that counter loss, that not a counter lawsuit, where the attorney reached out to you? This is after COVID had started. I mean, how did that
Yeah.
make you feel when you got that letter?
Yeah, so this was before the lawsuit. Well, I was very upset because I knew I did everything right. I followed the rules. Not only did I follow the rules, I did what they recommended in their letter, put in 4 windows. If they would have said put in 8 windows, I would have gladly done it. But they said put in 4. That's exactly what I did. And then when I read the attorney's letter and he said, well, we inadvertently approved your windows. That's basically admitting, like, oh, we made a mistake. I don't care what the mistake was or why it was, but that's not my responsibility when I paid $5,000 for windows. Do you think I'm going to go spend another $5,000? That's wrong. And then when I look around the rest of my community and I see other windows, I get they want the unity to conform and be the Stepford community, but I mean, everybody else has different windows, different doors. Why do they have that? Why are you picking on me? And for some reason, they are picking specifically on me
And
with their
again, pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no.
But it doesn't matter why they're picking on my guest. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, it would be good to know, but it doesn't know. It doesn't matter, and you may never know why they're doing this. So Sherry, I think a real key thing is the word reasonable. And so if you got 100 people from to look at photographs, so even to ideally, if we had a genie, then make this happen. If you get 100 people, different people, to look at your windows and then look at the other windows, you know, what would those? I mean, these are people that don't know you, don't know anything about the community, and say, do you think those windows look the same as those windows? What would the average person not involved in this say?
And I've asked people that actually to make sure that I'm not acting completely out of emotion, because it's easy to do, especially when your home is involved. And if you look at the paperwork and if you look in my community at the different windows in my community, you would say, like, this woman has a cut and dry case. Like, she did everything right. Why are they doing this? Why are they keeping this going on?
I meant visually, just paperwork aside. I mean, don't know anything about the lawsuit, don't know anything, and just say, look at these windows and look at these windows.
Okay, so visually, if you came into my community right now and you walked around, you would see different window styles, different door styles. The only thing about my windows that stand out are they are white instead of beige, which I would have ordered them in beige. And the only reason I ordered them in white was so that they could paint it their particular color of beige, which is a particular color, which was agreed upon in my architectural application and in an email that they were going to paint them. But 4 years later, they have refused to do that.
And how much does it cost to paint these windows?
Not much. I would get up on a ladder and paint it myself, but then they'd probably start finding me $100 a day. So I'm not doing that.
Oh, excuse me. I mean, you answered the question pretty much the way I expected, that there's nothing stands out about them except the color, and that could be fixed.
Right. Exactly.
Excuse me for chuckling. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at them, you know, the homeowners association, for putting you through this.
It's ridiculous. It's become like a pissing contest. Like, you know, and the HOA are a bunch of men. They're all good buddies. I live in the South. In the South, you know, they have what you call the good old boys club. And so they have the good old boys club, and they don't like that I've stood up to them, and they're trying to teach me a lesson. And then, let me tell you, it's been a hard lesson. But I mean, right is right and wrong is wrong. And if I thought I was wrong by any slight chance, and I've asked my friends, because, you know, again, I'm acting out of emotion sometimes on this matter. I've asked people, please tell me, like close friends and friends, like new friends or people I don't even know that well, here's the situation, here's the documents, look around, what do you think? And they say the same thing. They're like, it looks like you didn't do anything wrong. Why are they doing this to you? I'm like, I don't know why. I would love to sit down with them and say, why are you doing this to me? Why are you putting me and my family through this?
Yeah, they're not going to tell you.
No, and they don't care, because they're using homeowners' money. It's not their money, and it's not affecting them.
So two things, it's just my last two things, and you've done a splendid job of explaining this. Have you had been able to take advantage of getting a second legal opinion?
You know, I have not. I started out with one attorney in the beginning who wrote the HOA attorney, and then we didn't receive a response. So we considered the matter closed. And then I went to another attorney. So if that counts as a second legal opinion, I don't know, perhaps that's the case. I feel like I'm with a good and reputable firm. The problem in North Carolina with trying to retain an attorney is that a lot of the HOAs and management companies are monopolizing the legal industry. And so there's not a lot of attorneys that specialize in HOA matters that can represent homeowners because they're representing HOAs. So it is tough to even find an attorney. I lucked out in finding a firm that could do it for me, but I don't even know if I could find another one because, again, the management company is so big and they have places in North Carolina, South Carolina, and I think even other states. And there's so many builders that they may even be using my law firm, but just not my attorney.
The reason I ask is there's a lot of retired attorneys in this country that love doing pro bono work when they feel that you have a situation where people in power are using that power to make ordinary citizens miserable in some way, and they find it something fun and satisfying to do. The issue is they need to know about you in order to reach out and help you. And one of the ways to make that happen is your story getting attention in the media. Has there been any media attention to what's been going on?
So yes, I worked on that because I figured that was my next step. I didn't know what else to do, and pursued and pursued and pursued because the media is obviously busy with more important matters in this world. But I did get in touch with the Charlotte Observer. A story was written and actually made front page news. The HOA was approached for their comments, which they refused to comment. But then after my story aired and made the front page, the HOA attorney wrote a very disparaging letter to my entire community, trying to knock down everything in that story. My attorney responded, which he wasn't going to do, but he just thought it was wrong what they were doing. And he sent a letter to every homeowner saying, no, this is all wrong. You can check court documents and see for yourself.
The attorney for the HOA, can you give me one or two examples of the things they said that
I have to try to recall. I don't have it in front of me. He wrote that they tried to settle on this whole matter, and they offered to change up my windows, which they never did. I offered for them to do that, but they refused. He said that the board of directors now is a new board of directors. It's not the same board of directors that dealt with my matter, but it is. There are still members, including the HOA president, who has been on the board the entire time, who I believe is the ringleader. He also said that we hadn't gone to trial yet, which basically getting summary judgment. We did go to court. So he's trying to say that we didn't go to court. Trying to think what else.
So they basically tried to just go after you and your attorney, saying this is not correct, this is incorrect, this is incorrect.
Right.
One of the things they pointed out was really interesting, that it's a different board. That is irrelevant.
Right, but it wasn't. There are still board members that were on the
even
board.
if it were true, it's irrelevant. So that speaks a lot when they try to change the subject and discuss things that have nothing to do with the case. That shows they don't have a good platform to stand on. I mean, they grab straws, and just by just going after you and saying this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, it really sounds to me that they know they're in a weak position and are just flailing around trying to come up with something. Did they ever go after you personally in any way?
Well, I mean, by writing that letter that went after me personally, it was written to every homeowner in the
Yeah,
community and made me look bad.
I would
You know,
agree. It's going after you. But yeah.
I used to be a very social person. I no longer try to do things in the community. I avoid going to the pool. You know, because I feel like I've been ousted. Anybody that meets me, they're like, "Oh, you're that window lady," and you know, that's a very uncomfortable feeling because like this is my home and it's a pretty small community. And then after that letter was written by the HOA attorney, I got some nasty letter in my mailbox. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it pretty much said something like, "Give up, bitch, you're not going to win." I was like, wow, you know,
Wow.
so
Can you hold on for 1 second? Um, I'm going to pause for 1 second.
okay.
Well, yes, I definitely would consider that going after you. And
Hmm.
I don't know who's behind that letter, but that's going after you. And that's evidence that you are right.
Hmm.
Because if you were wrong, they wouldn't have to resort to those kind of tactics and
Yep.
strategies. You're right. That's
And then
evidence that you're on the right track. You're a hero,
mhm.
and they know it.
And then another thing too, Sandy, was I turned 50 recently. I hate to admit to it, but I had a 50th birthday party for myself. And I wanted to do it at the community clubhouse and pool. And when I asked to use it, they said, no, you cannot use it. You're in a lawsuit with us. Even though I pay my monthly dues, they would not allow me to go to the clubhouse and have a little gathering for my birthday.
I'm not an attorney, but I suspect again it's irrelevant.
Mhm. As
Um,
long as I paid my dues, there was no reason for them to do that. But
right, right. But that was their response. So this is well, my heart goes out to you. I am so glad you're standing up to this nonsense because that's obviously what it is. They've
mm,
made a mistake, and rather than say, "Oops, we made a mistake,"
mhm,
let's get past this. They're going to dig in their heels and make you pay, and that is wrong. And you know
mhm,
it. You know it.
mhm,
You know it. And but that doesn't make it any less stressful for you knowing that you're right. It's still
no.
stressful.
Mhm,
So take heart knowing that you're right. That media press is very important and ought to be. Just the fact that I'm here talking to you now, you've already got help and assistance.
thank
And
you.
for our oh, you're welcome. And for our listeners out there, all there's a reason that our guest got the attention of the media. She asked a reasonable question, she made a valid point, and she backed it up with data, which is her letters and all her evidence that she had. That's why she got the attention of media. And I think she could get the attention of major media. I
Mhm,
wouldn't be surprised if major media, New York Times, Washington Post picked up the story. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
mhm.
Um, the if anybody wanting to reach out to my guest to help her, how can they get in touch with you, Sherry?
I'm on Facebook, Sherry
Okay.
Loeffler. I would gladly love for anybody to reach out if they can help in any way, giving me guidance on how to fight them, even financial support. Because right now that's where, I've already spent $15,000. I'm a single mom. I'm just a regular working person and I'm running out of funds and that's what they're banking on. But I just don't want to back down because not only for me, but since this story has aired, I have had people come to me with their horror stories. And of course, I want to see their documents to make sure they can back them up. Like if you did something wrong, okay, you put in a fence and you weren't supposed to, well, okay, then you're going to get fined. I've lived in HOAs before where I've had no problem. But if you're living in an HOA like mine where they're going to bully you and take advantage and you have no recourse except for hiring an attorney, that's just wrong.
It's wrong.
And I want to help other homeowners and our younger generation because this could happen to them. And unfortunately, in my community, a lot of people aren't realizing what I'm going through because they're busy in their own worlds. They pay their dues. They're not seeing any financials reflecting attorney fees because they're hiding that. And so they're like, okay, they're just happy to go about their day and not be bothered. And I probably would be the same if I was on the other side of the fence. but I'm not. And I mean, at this point, like my goal is to go to legislation at some point and try to promote change, because it's wrong that an HOA can bully somebody to where they have with me. And unless you have tens of thousands of dollars to fight them, you could lose your home. They put a lien on my house and could have taken my home when I followed the rules. If I didn't have an attorney to fight for me, they would have taken my home, even though I did nothing wrong. And there's
Thank
other
goodness.
homeowners in that situation.
Thank goodness you did have that attorney. Sherry, is there any final thing you'd like to share with our listeners before we go?
Think twice before you move into an HOA community. You know, do your homework, see if there's been any lawsuits against them, ask questions of the neighbors, make sure you don't end up into this type of situation. Follow the rules. If they say submit an architectural application, submit it, be very specific, give specifics, give measurements, give examples, document everything you can. I am grateful that I sent emails following up and documenting not just what was in the application, but documenting the whole situation, which has saved me. And sometimes it's easy just to get lazy and not do that, but you need to document every little thing, take pictures, do as much as you can.
Thank you so much. That's fabulous advice, because all of us have some sort of big guys in our communities, and that advice is good for everything, not just the homeowners association. Thank you, Sherry, so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Sandy. It was great talking to you.
You're welcome. And for the listeners, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast on all your favorite platforms. And remember, no matter who you are, you too can beat the big guys. Okay, Sherry, so stay with me.
Okay.